Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Rokoko webinar. We are joined today with Fabricio Moraes, the amazing VFX artist who has now won first place in 2 Clint Jones Punisher
Yeah,
render challenges, and then in the latest one got 4th place, just cleaning up these challenges. So thank you, Fab, for coming.
thank
Um,
you so much.
Incredible artist, and also if you were in the Discord during the last render challenge, Fab was in there helping people out and just being a great community member. So we all appreciate that.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
yeah, today we're going to be looking at Rokoko tools. We're going to be talking to Fab about his workflows and processes related to Rokoko and mocap, but also just related to these render challenges. So before we get into our agenda, I do just want to mention, we have these webinars all the time. And in addition to having awesome guests like Fab, we do raffles, we do discounts. We're doing some raffles today. We're going to give out a full mocap system today, a couple other goodies. We tease new products. And so just keep your eyes open. We have lots of webinars in Houdini and Blender coming up, and we're going to do a little Unity coming up. And so stay tuned for all that stuff. Just want to shout that out. We also have a new indie bundle. So this is awesome. I'm so excited about this. Smart Suit Pro 2, smart gloves, and studio subscriptions, all for under $3,000, which is crazy. It's a 40% savings. Check the QR code if you're eligible. But really cool, really a great way for an indie creator to like jump into the mocap world. And you'll be seeing a live demo in a little bit. So follow the QR code. And again, we'll send you all this info afterwards. Also, for people here today, we have a 5% discount, Fab5 on Rokoko.com. So it's a 45% discount on the indie bundle. If you're on the fence for Rokoko, now's the time to jump or join another webinar later. And we always do discounts. So, okay, let's get into it. What are we doing here today? So first, I'm just going to do a very brief introduction to the Rokoko ecosystem, so we're all on the same page, our hardware and software. Then I'm actually going to jump into a suit really quick and show you how easy it is to actually make some motion capture. And we're going to put Fab in video purgatory for this, just so we can get through it quickly. And then we'll bring back Fab, and again, we'll talk to you about your philosophy and some of the lessons you've learned. And then also we're going to get into your project file for Kinetic Rush. Yes.
Yeah, that's a plan.
And while we go through, we'll be doing raffles. And also there's a Q&A button down below of the Zoom UI. We can, we'll try and look at the chat, but we can't really look at the chat. There's so much going on. 400 of you here. Thank you for coming. But if you have a question, put it in the Q&A. We have some amazing Rokokians, Luke and Ian and Jonathan, and who else is back there? We got Jacob. We got our CEO and founder in the chat. He'll be answering questions too. So put them in the Q&A if you have any questions, and then Fab and I will do a live Q&A at the end because he has generously offered to hang out for a little while so we can go down some rabbit holes. And yeah, it's gonna be good. So okay, sorry Fab that I'm gonna put you into purgatory now.
No
But
problem.
you're gonna come back soon, and we'll get into actually,
Okay.
I think, the good stuff that everyone wants to see. So
Okay, see
okay.
ya.
See ya. Rokoko, who are we and what do we do? We are a motion capture company that make motion capture hardware and software. And kind of our, our guiding light is the idea that we want to make mocap that is affordable, it's easy to use, and it's high quality. So we kind of gear ourselves towards the indie creator. Although, you can use our mocap at a very high level. Generally, we're trying to make things as easy and as accessible as possible with all of our tools. So that's kind of the ethos that runs through all of our products. Our flagship product is the Smart Suit Pro 2, which is an inertial motion capture system. That means that there's sensors that are spread throughout the suit, communicate with your computer over Wi-Fi, no cameras or wires or anything. And it's a fantastic product. It's kind of our flagship product, right? That most of our mocap is done with. You can see an example down below. Going along with that, we make some smart gloves. These are for hand and finger motion capture. These can actually be used with other mocap systems as well, but they work natively with the Smart Suit Pro 2. They're fantastic. They're super affordable. They just work, and hand animation is the worst if you've ever tried to do it. These make it really easy to get very accurate hand and finger motion captures. So those kind of go with the SmartSuit Pro 2, right? We also have a face capture solution. We have a couple now, actually. We have one that works on iOS, and that uses the Apple AR Kit blend shapes. So that's kind of the industry standard, kind of indie standard facial motion capture system. Just works off of an iPhone. In tandem with that, we sell a head rig, which we will be using today in our demo with an iPhone. But this is also, you know, like the gloves, this is system agnostic. It's just an iPhone mount. This thing is amazing. It's super cheap relative to the other very expensive iPhone mounts that are out on the market for some reason. But you can use it with MetaHuman Animator or with anything that requires iPhone facial motion capture, right? So it's just a great, easy little product. And again, you don't have to use it with Rokoko. So that's our iOS face capture. We also have just recently launched an Android compatible face capture system. So this was an Android-based facial motion capture solver that we use within Rokoko Studio. But then the product itself is just it's also system agnostic, right? You could use it with Reallusion AccuFace. You could use it with Faceware. It's basically just a camera that outputs through a USB-C cable at the end. If you have an Android, you can plug it into an Android and use it in Rokoko Studio natively with our other tools, or you can use it with other tools, you know, with non-Rokoko tools. So another great little product. I'm going fast because I want to get to the live demo, and I want to get back to Fab. So again, you can always book a demo if you're curious about any of the stuff that we're going through, and get more information, or come back and watch this later, or check out our YouTube channel. The Coil Pro is kind of the last piece of hardware that I'll talk about. This is a new product. It's actually sitting here right here with me. It's a completely novel motion capture product in that it uses an EMF field. It generates an EMF bubble within which it can track your smart gloves in absolute space. And all of that is just a lot of science words to say that it gives you very accurate hand position for your motion capture. You can see down below, there's an example of like a drummer. Our mocap without the coil is fantastic. It's what I use as my daily driver. But that being said, there's usually a little bit of cleanup for something like a drum session that would be down below. With the coil, you're not really going to have to do any cleanup. So it's for use cases where you need more accuracy, where you need multi-actor interaction, things like that. And here's another just little example. Two-handed prop manipulation, things like that. That's where the coil really excels. And you can find out more about that on our website. So that's all the hardware. On the software side, we have a program called Rokoko Studio. It is completely free to download. You can go and download it right now from rokoko.com. It comes with sample motion capture projects, so you can actually check out our mocap for yourself. You can export that mocap and use it as you want. You can see the whole workflow, you know, if you go and download Rokoko Studio for free. You can also do retargeting of Mixamo or Unreal characters in Studio. You can live stream your motion capture data out of Rokoko Studio into programs like Unreal or Unity or Maya or Blender. And it's kind of the hub, right, of all of our motion capture systems. So again, you can go and you can download it right now. And I encourage people who are curious about Rokoko to go and do that, right? Go and test the tools if you want to see what they can do. And thankfully, you can grab Studio for free. Our last thing that I will mention is we have an AI motion capture solution as well. Rokoko Vision. This is a free single camera solution. So again, you can record yourself on your iPhone right now, go upload it at vision.rokoko.com and get some motion capture. It won't be super high fidelity motion capture because it's single camera, but we also offer a dual camera AI solution as well. It's just you need to be on a Plus subscription to access that. And we will actually be raffling off a Plus subscription today. So somebody will get access to this today from this webinar. But I think what I try to do, you know, in going through all of our products, what I always am trying to give the impression of, and that I want to convey, is that each individual product is great, but we've really worked hard to create this ecosystem, right? Because the technology keeps advancing, workflows keep changing. And when you're investing in a motion capture system, it's about the tools, but it's also about kind of, will it stay relevant in the future? And by putting effort into trying to do AI, into doing this new EMF solution, into our classic inertial, we're kind of touching on all the different niches of motion capture, because depending on what you're doing, what your needs are from mocap will be very different, workflow to workflow, person to person, studio to studio. So all of these tools are intended to be easy to use, affordable, and also high quality, right? And that's who we are. So there you go. And as I said in the middle, you can book a free demo at rokoko.com. And this is really cool as well. This is a personal webinar, right? Just for you. It's with one of our product specialists. You can ask specific workflow questions to your workflow. It's a really great thing that I can't think of another company that offers this, especially in this space. You get to see the tools uncut, raw, live, right? And ask your specific questions, whether they're about shipping to you, whether they're about the capability of the tools, whatever. So book a free demo. And again, we're going to send this information off to everyone as well. Okay. How we doing? Okay. I'm burning time. So let's get into our actual live demo. And Ian, hit me up with the winners of the first raffle, because we're going to do our first raffle winners after the live demo. Okay. So I'm going to jump into a suit. I've got my Smart Suit Pro 2 right here, and we'll see how fast I can do this. So I used to start these webinars actually already in the suit, but one of the best things about Rokoko, if I don't fall over while I'm talking and trying to put on my suit, is just how quickly you can go from hold on a second. Yeah. How quickly you can go from like having an idea about, okay, I need a mocap take doing this thing with my character. How quickly can I actually get that take into Blender or into Maya or into Unreal, right? And it's super easy and fast to just hop into a suit. It usually takes me about a minute. If I'm not talking into a camera and doing and running a webinar at the same time, it takes me less time, but there we go. I'm in my suit, and I will make myself a little bit smaller here. I got some, oh no, I got to move zoom out of the way here. But I got in our poll, I got Rokoko Studio open behind me. And I will throw on my gloves. And as I said before, the gloves just plug in natively to the suit. There's just a cable at the end of the sleeve that I'll plug my gloves into. And what's great about that is that, again, although you can use the gloves with other systems, I've seen them used with volume systems or even with an XSense or something like that. The gloves work natively, right, with our stuff, which just makes it a little bit easier, and is nice that it's all a unified motion capture stream that is coming out of that is coming out of the suit into the program. So I'm all plugged in. I'm going to take off my headphones here, take off this beanie, throw on my head strap, maybe throw my beanie. No, beanie's staying off. And then I'm just going to plug in a generic USB battery brick, which is also just an amazing thing that I love about Rokoko, is that you don't have to charge the suit. It can be incredibly annoying to get to set and realize I didn't charge my suit or something, right? By having this powered by an external battery pack that's just a generic battery pack, it means that you'll never run out of power, right? You never have that problem. So there we go. We're up and running, right? We're in Rokoko Studio. I don't know how long that took, but usually it's like about a minute, again, if I'm not chattering away. I'm going to add an actor profile to my scene. This just has some of my measurements. It makes the motion capture more accurate. You can have multiple actor profiles if you're working in a team and sharing the suits. I will drag my mocap avatar onto my actor. We have a 3-second calibration pose, which actually you can make shorter. I just like it to be 3 seconds so I can get into position, and we're done. right? We're in. This is it. And hopefully, you know, I always feel like it's like a little not impressive because it was so easy, but that should, hopefully that tells you how impressive it is, right? It is super simple to just jump in and I can just start recording, right? And that's all I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to fiddle with tripods. I don't need to worry about a ton of batteries. I don't need to do a huge calibration, right? I can just jump in and I can start, you know, making my motion capture and keep moving, right? The whole goal is for us to eliminate the pain of animation and all the time it takes to do animation and things like that, right? And that's why we focus so much on making this easy to do as an individual, you know, and having it be as accessible as it is. So let's actually go ahead and record something. And I've got a Mixamo character here that we can also add. And I'm going to make both of these visible. You can see, here we go. Look at this, looking good. We'll just, let's do a recording. Let's get after it. It's always fighting or it's dancing. And we'll do some jumping. Oh, yeah. Okay, there we go. Good enough. And you can see that there was some oddness with the jumping there. And we're going to talk about what that was. You can see it was like a little bit weird during the recording. So another advantage of Rokoko is that it's all real time, right? This means that I can be a VTuber. The one limitation is that a lot of how our translation works, so when I'm jumping, when I'm moving around, like running or doing somersaults or things like that, that requires usually a 30-second cleanup on the back end of your mocap take. So here's the take. You know, looks great, right? No, don't have to do any cleanup. There's oftentimes I never have to do any cleanup at all. I'm just gonna move my camera up here. But you can see right here, this looks a little bit funky. And if I can tell you about why that is, you can see down here we have some circles. And this blue circle represents our right foot's contact with the ground, and the green circle represents our left foot's. And we need to make sure that Rokoko Studio understands that our feet are actually not touching the ground when they're not touching the ground. And for this jump, you can see that Rokoko Studio thinks my left foot is on the ground right here, but we know that it's not. So if I just take off that, boom, take off that one little keyframe, and then maybe move this one a little bit. We fixed everything and it looks amazing. So that is how Rokoko works on the back end. And that's kind of, you know, it's a magical mix of our hardware, but then also the software, you know, our algorithm cleaning up our motion capture and making it look as good as it is through this process. Okay, a couple other things, and then we'll jump right back to Fab that I just want to show off. One is that we have a bunch of retargeting options in Rokoko Studio. If I need to go and adjust my character's arms or something like that, I can do that, which is really cool. We also have a treadmill mode. If I go back to live here and I turn on, you can see I'm translating through space when I walk around. You can turn on a treadmill mode. I'm now locked in space. So I'll never leave the origin point of the scene, which is useful if you're a VTuber or something like that. We have elevation tracking, so you can actually go up and down stairs, which is really cool, excuse me. And then, of course, we have all of these live streaming plugins to all the different softwares that are available as well. I'm just going to check my Slack, make sure that, yep, we're all looking good. Okay, so before we get back to Fab, I do want to quickly show you some face capture. And to do this, I will take off my head sensor, take off my headband, throw on the head rig here. Boom. I've got my iPhone that I am just going to open up the Rokoko face capture app. And you can see we get this little pop-up. We'll hit connect, we'll hit allow. I will add this into our scene here, drag on the face capture, and then you can see I've got this wonkiness for my head, and that's because I need to do another calibration here because I had to remove the head sensor. So let me do this really quick calibration. And then I will try to position myself so you can actually see what's going on here. But yeah, this is face capture. So really easy to set up. It's Apple ARKit, so it's a little bit limited. You know, it's not MetaHuman Animator, but that being said, you can get, you know, really expressive, really reactive stuff out of this. And it's you know, think about an NPC this is perfect for, but also a hero character in a video game or in an animation. Like, you can get some really fantastic stuff out of this. And this is the iOS. We also have an Android solution. Now, the last thing that I'll do before we jump back to Fab, and you know what, maybe I will take this off. I'm gonna take this off, actually. Yeah. Because we will jump into the coil really quickly. Let me grab my iPhone. We will disconnect this face capture here, unpair face capture because it's out of the scene. Headband goes back on, do another calibration, and then we will turn on the coil, and I'll show you kind of what the coil does just very briefly. And you can kind of see the utility of the coil and what it brings to the table. So I'm actually going to hide this other character. But one of the limitations with inertial motion capture, and again, this is mocap that is sensors that are going over Wi-Fi, right, is that if you're doing things like this, you might get instances, and you will get instances where things don't line up perfectly. Now, that's actually okay for almost every use case of motion capture, because at the high level, certainly, you will always need to do editing. It doesn't matter if you're using a $1 million optical system. Because you're putting it on a character with different proportions than you will always need to do editing. So in reality, a lot of times stuff like this is fine because you're gonna have to fix it anyway. Even if it were perfect, you'd have to touch it, right, in post. However, for live performance or for multi-actor interaction, or if you just wanna make your life easier, when you're doing things like handling two-handed props, that is when the coil becomes really cool. So I'm gonna unplug my suit. I'm gonna turn on my coil. Turn on my coil if I was too far away from the mic for that. Oh, 11:29. Fab, I'm coming. I'm coming, we're almost done. I'm actually on time. I'm very impressed with myself. Okay, coil is on. If we repower the suit, the coil will pop up in our scene. And yeah, turn my suit back on. And we should get the coil that will kind of populate in the scene. And that will happen once the coil senses my smart gloves, right? And so here we go, I'm back. But then also, oh, looky, what is that? That's a little coil. So now when I do my calibration, right here, so the difference with the coil, my hands are in the right spot. And this is amazing when you have something like a two-handed prop. Really cool. And again, if you have any questions about, you know, if the coil would be right for you, book a free demo. If you have any questions about anything that we saw, you just saw here at all, book a free demo, because we do live demos in those meetings, and you can ask to see all this again at your leisure. So, okay, I think that's it. That's pretty much it. And we are going to do our first raffle for winner number 1. Let me bring back Fab. Fab here. Let me bring you back into the mix here. Okay. How was that, Fab? Was that a good demo?
Yeah, that's a great demonstration.
Okay, good.
You are a pro.
Okay. I've done this. I think I've got it down pretty good at this point. I feel pretty confident. Okay, so
I'm
our
jealous.
first yeah. You're pretty, I mean, we got video of you right here on the screen jumping around in the suit, so you know what you're doing too. Okay, raffle 1. Mini raffle, we are giving out Rokoko Plus plan, so that's access to the Rokoko Vision dual cam, but also a bunch of other things in Rokoko Studio. So the winner is Mark Sutherland. Yay! Congratulations, Mark. We will get in touch with you and make sure that you have access. And yeah, some clapping emojis. Okay, so we have 2 more raffles. We're giving out a head rig and also a full performance capture setup, so stay tuned for that. Okay, Fab, let's get into it, because this is the real reason we're here. Okay, so thank you again for being here, and yeah, maybe we could just start with you telling us a little bit about who you are, you know, where you're coming from, and what you do for a living, and you know.
Okay, so I'm a Brazilian artist. I started the interest in the field really young. When I watched Toy Story, Jurassic Park, I fell in love with digital creations. I love video games as well, so it is a huge inspiration for me for a lot of what I do. And this was my main field to start studying it. And it was a very overwhelming in the beginning, like for everyone until today. But I fell in love for the field, and I started working when I just finished college. I worked 10 years in a company called Sigus Fly. It was one of the biggest companies, VFX companies for advertising in the city of the Rio de Janeiro. And then after 10 years, this studio closed. And one of the former employers, one of the former owners, called me and asked me to join him in a new company called Ginger Peak. We are a small company. It is more a hub of artists collaborating to each other than an actual. Because when I say company or studio, people usually think that is a physical space with a lot of people, a lot of computers. It is more a hub of people helping each other.
Right.
And
it's a Discord channel.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And we work this way ever since for 12 years now. And doing advertising, I've done cinematic video for video games, animations, character creation for games.
A little bit of everything. Yeah. And I forget, I remember you told me that you'd worked for a larger company, but it's interesting that you had the experience of being at a big company, but then also at a now smaller studio, and that you've kind of done a little bit of everything. And again, you can just search Fab's name. We'll have the link sent to you, but go check out GingerPick. I don't know if it's gingerpick.com, but go just Google it. Yeah. But there's, and then Fab's Behance page and everything, if you want to see a lot of Fab's work, which is a little bit of everything. ZBrush, I mean, you were a ZBrush artist for a long time, and now you do Unreal, but you're a Blender, and you've done a lot. Yeah,
but now if you Google Fab, you go to the Epic launch, Epic Space. So yeah, it will a little more difficult to find me because of Epic.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Of course. Yeah. Yeah. God. Yeah. That's a whole Google.
What a coincidence.
Search nightmare. Okay. So that's kind of where you've come from. I think a lot of people have gotten to know your work recently, you know, especially in the indie world through the render challenges, right? You've done, I don't know how many you participated in, but you've won 3 of Clint's render challenges. And if you don't know what the Pwnisher render challenges are, go to YouTube right now and watch the montages, because they are render challenges that encourage people to just make incredible things. Clinton Jones sets them all up, and everyone kind of supports each other. And we get these really incredible quadruple A, quintuple A results from this community. And Fab has won 3 of these contests now. And you were talking a little bit yesterday when we were chatting about, I guess, how do you view the render challenges? And you see them as being very worthwhile, right?
Yeah, it is. I think it is for anyone that want to participate in every level. It is a great experience because I I have a long road in my professional career, so I learned a lot of stuff in the past, but I keep learning and I keep studying it. I keep trying to improve myself. I'm
Yeah.
learning new tools. I'm using Blender and Unreal mainly now, and this is not very long. I have more than 20 years of experience in it. For the last 3 years, I'm using these tools, and it is
Wow.
great and help me so much learning more and improving myself. And it is a very good experience because it mimics an actual work environment. And
Yeah.
it is a very good experience for people that are freelancers or even use 3D as a hobby, and you learn so much from it. And yeah,
Yeah. It kind of
it is
mimics
awesome.
a client,
Yeah,
job, but it doesn't have the pressure of that financial pressure, right, backing it. So you can experiment and learn new tools, right, and stuff like that you might not do with a
yeah,
client.
because
Yeah.
you have the deadline, you have the thing, you
Right.
have a base to work with.
You have a brief,
Just
essentially.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
just like an actual work. The difference is you don't have a client, the client is you, and you have the total creative control of what you are creating. And yeah, you don't have the pressure, financial pressure like you mentioned, but you have the pressure of the deadline. Deadline is and it is a good thing because
Yeah.
when working with personal projects, sometimes it's endless. You're always trying to figure out new stuff and never think it is good enough and never launch never finish,
Yeah.
never call it done. And it is different for this challenge because you have, if you wanted to participate, you have to deliver on time. And
Yeah.
this is one of the
And you
major.
want to impress the community. You want to do
Yeah,
well.
yes.
There's an
Yeah, of
external
course.
audience for it as well
Yes, of
beyond
course.
yourself. Yeah.
And one thing that is very important, I think, for this challenge, you have specifications, restrictions, and specifications that every job has as well,
Right.
and
Right.
helps you pay attention to this kind of stuff because it is very important. If you don't deliver what you were told to deliver, if you're not uh, using the correct frame rate or resolution,
Naming
you are
convention.
disqualified.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
disqualified. And on actual work, you have to respect this kind of stuff as well.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
I
You've
think
got,
it's one of the main points of this challenge.
that's such a good point. So for most of these challenges, I know for the Endless Engines one, which I think is in this montage that, oh no, this is just the latest one, this
Yeah.
montage. But for most of these challenges, they are focused around a character. They have been. And that's kind of where I think we can dovetail into the mocap stuff a little bit. And
Sure.
maybe can you talk about, did you have experience animating humanoid, doing animation and has, because you won a suit from the initial one that you won, right? And
Yeah,
then
yes.
you've been working on integrating mocap from that one. And how has that experience been? And has it been helpful? Has it been, I mean, animating is really difficult. It's the hardest discipline, I think, honestly, in CG.
Yeah, I have experience in animating. Like since in the beginning on the previous company I worked with, I've done a lot of character animations
Okay.
for years. Of course, I'm not comparing to a Pixar animator or high level animators, but I know the fundamentals and I have
Yeah.
a good notion of movements and what works or not. But and it helps me building my background of knowledge. And but yeah, it is very time consuming if you are starting from scratch on animation. It is really time consuming, and I see a lot of people struggling with this, and myself included. It
Yeah.
is very hard and it demands a lot of practice. And can deviate you from other disciplines, because there are the time that demands to have to reach an excellence
Right.
in this part. It is a long time and a lot of practice. So this is something that I try to avoid, right? I usually make character animation just when it is really necessary, because I know how long it takes to get it done
Right.
and get it right. So when I participated in my first challenge was Endless Engines, was a vehicle-based challenge. So it wasn't mandatory having a character or animated character. So I used this as my advantage, and I worked in a insect creature running.
Right. A little
Yeah,
pilot guy sitting
yeah,
in an insect. Yeah.
yeah. And you have a pilot, but I didn't have much work with the pilot, animating the pilot, because he's there. He's just a part of the story, but
Yeah.
it is not the main focus, and it is a little smaller in the screen, so you won't see much movement. It won't be very noticeable. So I use this as my advantage, and I worked more with the main stuff, animating the bug. And yeah, fortunately, I won the first place. I won the Rokoko suit, and this was my first actual experience recording motion capture. I worked with motion capture
Really? Okay.
before.
But getting
Yeah,
it, you'd received it from a
yeah,
mocap studio or
that's
something.
right.
Yeah.
I used motion capture before as the only the data.
Yeah.
I knew how to refine the data, to add animation on top of the data, but never created one. I'd never had the hardware to do so. So it was really life-changing for me, because
Mm.
I had the chance to start using it, started working with Rokoko, and the things that I was a little trying to push myself away from character animation, now it is the opposite. Now I
Mm.
want to make character animation, even if it is a more simple stuff, if just a standing character making certain movements. I think this kind of animation are one of their hardest. Making a character still is way harder than making an action. And
100%. Yeah. People
yeah,
think mocap and they think jumping and karate and the Hulk. And really, I mean, every story that we get invested in has a character, and a lot of them are not doing that. And it's so much of just being able to create the small looks and things like that
yeah.
takes time too. And it's so nice that's what I think is like people don't think about that, how useful mocap can be for the just the simple touching the thing, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and in your demonstration, you jumped and you have to make a small adjust to make it. Uh, Making a standstill character with subtle movements, I don't need to do anything. I usually use the data that came from the Rokoko Studio. I don't hit. Just
Right.
if this character should looks a little more to the left, and okay, I
Right.
adjusted, but the quality of the motion capture, I got really impressed for this kind of stuff, and for these situations, I think this is where Rokoko Suit shines. And
Hmm.
of course, making more demanding action, stuff like that. Like I mentioned before, you can get away from cleaning. You
Yeah.
always have to make adjustments, and soon enough I will show the example for this latest my latest entry for Clinton that has cleanup, has motion capture, and summarizing and answering your question. Using Rokoko Suit, using the motion capture helped me so much with my workflow, because like I said before, making from scratch, it is very hard and time consuming. And one thing that I keep thinking about is, when you do from scratch, you have to think about the movement, the motion. When you record it, you have some idea of where you are going to do, but you are more concerned in cleaning it, not creating the motion. You have the motion
Hmm.
already, so you can improve it from that. And you have
Hmm.
80% of the path already done in the motion capture. So it is you cut a huge corner using
Yeah.
motion capture.
Right. And again, you know, and we've talked a lot about this, and I always say that, like, because you're always like, can I talk about the limitations of Rokoko? And everyone, and I'm like,
Yeah,
yes, that is, because it's really key to know the limitations of a tool, because that helps you use it properly.
yeah,
And there are limitations. You just saw one. If I'm jumping up and down and I need to be live or something, that's like a limitation. I know I'm gonna have to do that 30 seconds of cleanup. Or if I don't have a coil, you know, I've got a rifle or a katana. I know I'm gonna have to do that. So it's really good to know those limitations. And they're really not, they're not even limitations at that point, because you just, it's mocap is, there's no easy button. As much as, you know, at the end of the day, there's always going to be a little tweak that you do at when you're at this level, at least. And so as you said, our goal, like as we talk in our company meetings, our goal is always, it's not get people to 100%. That's like not helpful, because it's impossible. The goal is always to get you to 80 to 90% to make your life easier, and just make it so you don't get stuck at that first hurdle, right?
yeah, yeah. And there is a right tool for every situation, right? You won't cut paper with a chainsaw.
Yeah,
And if I would, let's say, if I would in Rokoko, if I would use a lighter stuff for sensor or more, or that kind of stuff, probably I wouldn't be able to use in my room. I have a 120, 120 square feet kind of
right.
room, and it works great for me. So I don't need much space to use the suit.
Yeah,
And this is one advantage. I don't have a place that I can, a huge studio that I can play with or run
right. You can
around.
set up a bunch of cameras that have
Yeah,
low FOV that need to
yeah,
be
yeah.
very far away from you. And yeah. Um, cool. That's so interesting. I love don't cut paper with a chainsaw. That is so true. And it also follows for so many other things. Unreal Engine is good at some things and it's bad at others. That's why you have Blender. And
Yeah.
Blender is good at some things and bad at other things. So it's really, yeah, our goal is always to, we don't want to hide the limitations. There's limitations in every tool, but working within those limitations, you can just get like what we're looking at here. So let's actually jump into the project file, see if we can crash your
Of
computer.
course.
Um,
Yeah.
and if you do, I'll jump back into a demo and it'll all be
Okay.
good. Can you share? Yeah,
Am I sharing already? Oh no, I
you're
have to
not. Oh,
share.
remember optimize for that little button or
Yeah.
whatever too.
All
And I'm
right.
gonna
Yeah.
I'm
Thanks
gonna
for reminding
end.
me.
So I think one thing that is fascinating about your project, and you've done it in 2 projects, is, well, first of all, maybe tell us what you used mocap for in this scene, because there was a hero, the animation that was provided was keyframe animation for the
Yeah.
hero character. But yeah, you take it from there. Yeah,
It's so funny that I'm seeing hearts floating on top of my
I know.
Unreal editor. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, the main character. Oh, a lot of hearts. Thank you guys.
There we go.
So like I mentioned before, the main character animation was already provided. We have 5. Well, how many hearts?
You tell chat anything and they will abide, you know, they'll come through
Yeah, I
for
love
you.
it. Oh, man. It is so distracting.
Can I add a
Can't
heart?
say.
I want to add it.
Yeah,
Okay, I can add a
I
heart.
wanna
Here's
add
my
it.
heart.
I wanna
I
add it
added my
too.
heart. There we go. Thank you guys. So
So
awesome. Thank you all for joining as well. This is
yeah,
so, I know, I
thank you
hope
for
you're
the
all,
love.
yeah. Look at that. That's so great.
So crazy.
Zoom
So yeah, what?
crashes.
Yeah. Well, if I crash, it's on you guys. So
Yeah.
so we have these templates that very helpful. We have the camera animated already. We have the characters that you can choose from, and that's it. That's all they provided. So
Right.
I saw a lot of people creating. You are allowed to create a new animation as long as it matches with the provided animation, at least in the beginning and the end, so it
Right.
can fit in the montage. And but I really enjoyed the animations and I think was suitable for what I want to do. So I really didn't want to spend much time on the main character animation. it was working already. So I want to work on my story. And just before I jump to the technical stuff, I just want to tell a little bit
Yeah,
how I
I please do. Yeah, I was gonna
yeah, no
ask
problem.
about how you thought about the scene itself because
Yeah,
it's a
so
that's yeah.
the last challenge I participated was the boss fight challenge, and I really enjoy working with characters in Unreal, the big guy with little guy, stuff like that. And I wanna go back and try something in this direction, but not the same stuff. I didn't want to
Mm,
replicate what I did before. And last year, at the end of last year, I made a trip to Japan with my wife, and I can show you my yeah here.
yeah.
So we were in this temple in Tokyo, and it has this portal with these huge statues on its side.
Mm,
I think you can see, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And I kept looking at this statue, and it was so amazing, so detailed, and so scary as well.
Mm,
I see here a little further away,
yeah.
and it was looks so alive. And I was imagining if that it comes alive and chasing me. I kept
Hmm.
this feeling. And when this challenge came, I remember this kind of this feeling, and I was very inspired by the um, Black Myth Wukong trailers. The game didn't came out yet when I started this challenge, but was a huge inspiration visually, and they were using Unreal 5, and I think would be a
Mm,
good match. Well, I'm studying Unreal 5 as well. Of course, I'm not planning to mimic the look. There are amazing artists working this project, and I wouldn't dare making something in the same quality, but it was very inspiring to me to work with
I think
something
you
like that.
yeah, I think you're right up there with them. But that's so interesting that for your reference, you were even looking at the same tool, things made in the same tools that you were gonna use,
Yeah,
right? UE, yeah. Huh.
yeah, and also I didn't want to make anything that already existed. So I didn't try to copy an actual statue. So I used Midjourney to generate some stuff to give me some ideas, and also took reference from real things. But I wanted to create something that it is not in anywhere in the world. So just so I didn't want to relate to anything, but I want to give the feeling of Asian culture,
Mm-hmm.
temples, stuff like that, and I think it is really fascinating. So I really wanted to do something like that. So what I took reference from Japanese, Chinese, Thai, the different kind of architectures and sculptures
Mm-hmm.
are amazing, and yeah, that's why my starting point for creating this piece. So jumping back here, the first thing I did was I got the template. I knew that I want to make statues chasing this guy, and I did. One of the first things I did was making a mocap session, like to make this block out here, here.
So you were like, I'm gonna have big guys in the background.
Yeah,
I'm gonna the first step, I'm not gonna you do the environment first. I do a basic block out and then
yeah,
get my vibe, get my animation feel, which is
yeah, and get
okay.
the timing and the
The
wave
timing,
of
yeah.
the animations. Yeah, because I knew that the getting the timing right would be difficult, and having I made it making the animation was the second thing I did. The first thing was making this block out.
Right.
I made some pose from this the full mannequin from Unreal. I pose him in different positions, like in the beginning, in the middle, in the end, in the final, where before the door closes. Just to have an idea of the scale, how big he would be, how it would frame, like how
Yeah.
low would be the pose so it can keeps in the frame. Because if he's standing up, the head would cut off by the camera. So
Right,
I
right.
want I want in frame at least the middle one, the main one. I want it in frame all the time, centered to the camera. So this one of the things I kept in mind. And as soon as I got, yeah, I think the scale will work. I made the motion capture, make a different captures and placed him here. And this was everything to me. It was so helpful because in the beginning I have a working animation. Of course, this is not the
Right.
final animation, but I have a working animation that's giving it is giving the impression I want to give. I want to give to the audience. And yeah, it is, like I said before,
And
like 80% of the work done in a few hours.
yeah, and I know that I was playing in that montage. There was some video of how you actually recorded the animation, but the tool you used, it was a smart suit, and then smart gloves were what you were using, right? And you just set up.
Yeah.
You talk about like how you. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Oh, yeah, I think it will. Okay, I
Yeah.
will
It's
just
it's like
open
in there
the
somewhere.
second. Yeah. Here. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was interesting
Yeah.
because I jumped a few times on this mattress,
Right.
and that's what I recorded for the making of. But when I started testing it, I think was a little weird when I fall into the floor
Right.
because the suit captures this as well, and I was softening my impact and stuff like that. So I tried a few times. I didn't like that much the results in the animation, and then I tried without the mattress. I was a little concerned in the beginning of breaking anything, breaking a sensor or stuff like that. So I had to be careful, and I stopped throwing myself to the floor. I just got lowering until
Right.
I hit the floor, and
And I think
I
that's also like I'll just I'll do a couple of things there, which I think is just thinking about Rokoko, iterate, being able to iterate quickly. Instead of having to fix a bad take, you could jump back in and just do it again. Because you will get bad
yes,
takes, and there will be things that you learn through the process. You learned that having a mattress on the floor was
yeah,
giving you some weirdness. It was okay, but it was giving you, it was sliding maybe, or whatever it was doing wasn't
yeah.
working. You can always jump back in and just like, okay, get it again, lesson learned. And that's and I will plug indie. So the tools that you used are the Indie Pro bundle tools. They are the ones that you can get a Smart Suit Pro 2 and the smart gloves for $2,700 now with the Indie Pro bundle. So that is the tool set you used for this, which I will just plug the indie bundle. But yeah, it's cool that you just were able to jump back in, because I remember you were talking about how the mattress was giving you issues, and then you could fix that, right? It wasn't like, oh my god, I rented a mocap studio, I brought in talent, and I can't go back and I have to try and figure this out. It's like, no, I'm in my
Yeah,
office, let me just do it
yeah.
again. It's fine.
And this funky stuff, it is very easy to fix. A lot of stuff are very easy to fix. And this was one of the main reasons I used this mannequin, because it already have a skeleton set up, and it
Right.
has a very, very capable control rig, very manageable. And yeah, it gives me right off the bat the all controls I need to make a good animation.
Yeah.
And rigging is something that I really not too much into it, so I would take very long to set up a rigging from scratch. I remember mentioning you before that I found a ready control rig for Mixamo,
Right.
and it works great. But I really love the control rig from the MetaHuman and for
Yeah.
the default control rig from
Yeah,
Unreal.
and Unreal's tools are just so, using mocap in Unreal was not the easiest thing to do in the past. Now it's I'd say it's the second best program for mocap in general, retargeting and editing. And it's
It
so
is
like
very
the
easy.
modular control rig. I mean, that's a whole other thing. But it's pretty easy to do all this in Unreal now with
Yeah.
mocap. But what I love is
Yeah.
you use the mannequin, and then you're just parenting. Like, talk about the character and how you use the mannequin, because I think that's so brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so what one of the great things I think from Unreal is that everything is modular.
Right.
So I started, okay, I set up the animation, a raw animation. I didn't adjust too much things in the beginning. I started working with the environment, with the lighting, and the blockout was still there. I will open another example, a previous example, like here, for example.
Mm.
I don't have the character set up yet, but I have the face to have a good idea of how it would look and
And
how
the height.
menacing would appear.
Right.
I sketched some armor pieces. Of course, I did want to make it bulkier, so I wasn't concerned with this yet. I knew that it was very skinny. I wanted more heavy, pronounced silhouette, but I knew that this was an issue for later. So having this in this stage was very helpful. And you see, I started working with the animation here. I adjusted the hand animation closer to the. I did want to force the perspective to have the hand closer to the camera as possible.
Right.
And what else? So yeah, I have the blockout and I have the animation ready. I can continue working with the animation, refining the animation, even if the model of the character is not done. And after having a more
Right.
refined animation, I could start making blocking. I block out, I make simple geometry from Blender and just bring to Unreal and started parenting to the bones. But it was
Yeah.
still very simple. I will
And
show another
it's
example.
so interesting because what you're doing is you're loading in the mocap, putting it in the scene,
Yeah,
and then that's
yeah.
basically it's done. I mean, you do some editing or whatever, but you don't have to worry about it's just yeah, it's so clever that you're just using the mannequin and it's like it's such
Yeah,
a
because
mocap. I don't know. Yeah, it's a very interesting way to do it.
yeah, the mannequin was the foundation of my character, and
Right.
I think you can see here that some pieces are detailed, like the pauldrons and the chest piece, but the legs, for example, are very low poly. Yeah, there's no detail in
Hmm.
the leg. So I kept working this way. I was working with the shapes. I wasn't concerned with the details, and I just it was a very easy process. It was time consuming, of course, but it wasn't complicated because I have the geometry, the same geometry, the shape of the, let's see, for a leg piece, for example. I have this, I just throw to the brush, sculpt the hell out of it, make the as many details as I can, and then I optimize the geometry and go straight to Unreal, and I can replace at the same position. And the
Right.
shape is the same, the scale is the same of the piece.
Because
So
it just fits the block out
yeah, it
like
just
the
fits.
same. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
And and I
Interesting.
was building this little by little. And
Right.
one thing that I like to work is I think the production, I just let's say there are different pillars. One pillar is the main character, another is the secondary character, another pillar is the lighting, another is the environment. And I try not to uh, go on top of just one pillar. I just start building all at the same stage. So I don't work
Fascinating.
too much with the environment and leaves the character for the end. I kind of
Huh.
work a little bit with the environment, then now I work with a little bit with the main character, and then the secondary character, and now the lighting, and everything is kind of building up all together. It helps me to,
Interesting.
yeah, and sometimes it sometimes can be boring stay in the same step in the same stage for too long, and this helps me refreshing myself in this book because it is very there is a lot of work was a lot of work working with this animation. I spent almost a month doing this and
Doing the shot.
was
Yeah.
yeah
The
and
full
was
time.
almost
Yeah.
yeah almost 200 hours of work.
Yeah.
And if I leave the main character for the end, I wouldn't have enough time to finish
Mm.
it. So
Hmm.
if I working everything all together, having everything I need, at some point, and then if I have enough time, I just can refine what I need. But let's say that I kept working this way and the deadline ends. I have something to show. But
Oh, interesting. It's not like you have no environment, right?
yeah,
Worst case scenario, you've got a 90% done.
yeah,
That's fascinating.
yeah.
Huh.
Because if I focus only on one thing, I usually didn't spend for this animation, for example. If I spend 2 days straight in one thing, I just stop what I'm doing and go to the next stage, go to
Right.
another thing. And the beauty in Unreal Engine, of course, you can do this in other softwares, but I think in Unreal this is very easy. You can go back and forth with different stuff since everything is modular. So I
Play
can
with the lighting.
replace, yeah,
Do a
play with the
fog card.
lighting,
Do a
yeah,
foliage.
replace the clothes of the character, stuff like that, very easily. And
Hmm.
this helps me a lot. So this was the foundation of the way I build this animation. And also, it is usually the way that I work with everything that I usually do daily.
Yeah. And
And
again, to bring it back to motion capture, like one of the things mocap kind of helps that process, because if you had to hand animate all of this,
yeah,
you couldn't do a little hand animation and come back, just animate the hips, then do like the mocap works into that style of workflow, I feel like, pretty well. Yeah.
yeah. And working with this character, it is the same process I made for
For the
previous challenge, for the boss fight challenge, the big
Yeah.
guy, the huge armature. It was the same process. But I used the mix summon base, and I didn't have a character as a base, so it was a little different, but the process itself was very similar. So here I outlined
Oh,
the
there it is.
mannequin,
Look. Okay,
yeah, the
that's the
foundation,
mannequin.
yeah,
Right.
and I started glue together these pieces. There are, I think it was 24 pieces total, all done from scratch, but some are more simple than others. This, for example, I didn't spend too much time doing these smaller pieces. Like this one, for example, that's more pronounced and more visible, so I detail
Yeah.
more. And this shoulder piece here is very simple, but the geometry density is very high. So one of the advantages in doing this way, and since Unreal still doesn't support, at least for the version that I used, it was 5.4, didn't support nanite for skeletal meshes. So nanite geometry can be deformed. In the next version, it will be, but right now it wouldn't. So I have to use what I have. And this, I think it is the best. This is the best way I know to work this way because I have
Yeah.
a high density character and optimized at the same way.
And even, I mean, and again, I think for people who maybe don't know what is going on in this scene exactly, you've created sockets, or I don't know how you're doing it, but you're parenting individual armor pieces to
Yeah,
bones, which is a very different process than normal rigging, which involves weight painting,
yeah, yeah. I
geometry,
did.
right?
Yeah, I didn't have to go to this process of weight painting.
Which is
The parenting is happening inside Unreal. So basically, we
right.
have the body that is the mannequin. It is the foundation, and everything is attached to the body, but it doesn't respond to the skeletal mesh as long as for example, in this here, I have this bone, and this here, for example, parent socket, we have the spine. So I started parenting each piece in in the corresponding bone, so it can obey the skeletal movement.
Yeah.
And one thing that was really important as well, since this character is bulkier and has this distinct armor pieces, I didn't want to make it moves all together with the arm. I want to make a secondary animation. To make this happen, this guy here is attached. What it is? Yeah, this guy here is attached to another skeletal mesh. A skeletal mesh of a very simple pauldron is hidden,
Mm.
but it has one bone. This bone, I created a control rig so I can control separated from the rest of the body, like here. So now I can,
Oh, so okay, I see.
yeah.
So it's not a part of the mannequin control rig. It's a separate
No,
thing.
yeah, it's separate, but it is parented to the bone. It is the same
Yeah.
thing like this hanging piece here. I have to build another skeletal mesh, very simple one, a few boxes with bones, with 4 bones total for each piece, and just parented this the high poly piece to the corresponding low poly piece.
Huh. And I think another thing just to call out, which is so, I think one of the things you learn using mocap, especially as an indie, like I was a generalist, I knew nothing about weight painting, I knew nothing about character rigging or modeling. And one of the things you learn quickly is that it really matters how characters are rigged. If you have a stormtrooper
Yeah,
and their armor is deforming because
yeah,
you've auto rigged the stormtrooper or this character
yeah,
and the stones are bending in ways that are unrealistic, it's subtle, but it makes just a huge difference. And it's such a this method is such a great way of working with non-organic, right, hard surface stuff like this, where
yeah,
there's no chance of this ever deforming incorrectly, because this is how armor would
yeah,
actually work. Armor is attached to a like armor doesn't deform, right? The body
yeah.
under the armor deforms. And so it's just very clever. I think it's such a smart, I keep saying that, I'm sorry, but it's such
Yeah, no
a smart
problem.
way to do that.
Thank
And
you
it
for the
covers
compliment.
so many different bases. It's the modularness, but then
Yeah,
it's rigged properly and it doesn't deform. You get this really great sense of weight, and everything. And it's just so yeah, it's such a clever way
yeah,
of doing it.
and of course there are different process for different situations, but for this one, I think what works best for me because, like you mentioned before, there's no way that the any armor piece will get deformed, but it can
Right.
clip, right? It is
Right.
a lot of pieces are clipping, but I try
Yeah.
to hide that with the camera
Right.
angle, the positions, moving other part because we have big parts here happening, and this last part was very tricky to make it right because there was a huge amount of clipping. If I
Yeah.
don't, if to set up the timing correctly was painful because
Yeah.
I did want to make the statue moving the closer to the camera possible, but at the same time, the main character was jumping through the armor piece and was clipping a lot. So I have to make a weird motion here. For example, I have to hold his position a little bit so the other character can go away, and then he
Mm-hmm.
continues going to the camera as soon as the door closes and hide everything. So right
And
after
again,
here,
to plug the old mocap, the advantage of mocap is that these problems will always exist, right? It's just being able to jump into a suit just means you have more time to focus on the rest of the problems, which will continue
yes,
to crop up, right? You're gonna,
yeah,
this thing is like, oh, I didn't realize that getting the hand is gonna be 2 extra days of work. If I had to hand
yeah,
animate him on top of that, it just speeds everything up, right? It keeps you
yeah,
moving quicker.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And also, I have a similar feeling working with mocap and working with Unreal because, like you mentioned
Mm,
before, you just mentioned that working with mocap makes things faster. You don't need to think too much of the action. Actually, you have to think on the action, but you don't need to think technically how you animate this action. You are making this action, and everything translates more naturally. And in
yeah.
Unreal, it is kind of the same with, for example, lighting and rendering. I don't need to worry with render time using Looming, for example. It's everything in real time. Each frame
Right.
takes a few
Right.
seconds to render.
This
So
is a 7-minute final render, I think you said in your
yeah, 7 to
process.
10 minutes. Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole animation, 5-second animation in 4K took me
The
roughly 10,
fog and the
10 minutes. Yeah.
VDBs and the particles all just rendering quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I might not get the most realistic render possible using Lumen. Making photorealism might be tricky in some situations, but for me, in this situation, doesn't matter because I wasn't aiming for
Yeah.
extreme photorealism for this one, so it works for me.
Yeah.
And also, a very good advantage of motion capture. There are subtleties that I wouldn't think about. For example, this left foot here, when I was crawling to the floor, I positioned the foot toe on the floor and twisted my foot like this. And I really enjoy this movement.
Yeah.
It's very simple. I really enjoy. I
Yeah.
would never think me animate this if I would make this animation from
Right.
scratch.
Yeah.
Like this kind of stuff, the way that it is placing the hand and the shoulder is moving up to compensate the weight, all was captured in motion capture, and I only need to enhance these movements afterwards using
Right.
animation layers.
Yeah, and again, that's why I always say, animating is the hardest. I maybe, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's arguments that could be made that texturing is the hardest, but honestly, animating, it just requires knowledge of. It's not only that you need to know anatomy, you need to know how to keyframe, you need to know how to do it technically in the program. You need to know movement, and you need to know all these quirks of,
Yeah.
emotion and all. There's so many things that go into animating, and it's such a cheat code to be able to. Your body is doing all this every day,
Yeah.
naturally, and you have a built-in, animator who can do this for you, and it's just your body, and being able to to harness that. I mean, hand animation is gorgeous. It's incredible. It's one of the most, I love hand animated stuff. The hand animation for the hero character in this project, I loved all of them, but I could never do that ever. And it gives, the mocap gives you access to be able to get into that world, which I think is just so, it can be so opening for your creative process.
Yeah, and well, making this character alive took me almost half of the time of the entire production. So if I would add animating by hand and all of the stuffs, I wouldn't have enough time to finish.
Right.
So yeah,
you'd have to do
was
something else. It would be an asteroid hitting him or something. Yeah.
So motion capture is great, and also for animating from scratch, you have to master all these fundamentals like anticipation, arcs. There are a lot of techniques in animation that you have to master.
Secondary
to make
motion.
Yeah, there is a lot. And doing motion capture, you do this automatically. But of course, having some level of knowledge of these fundamentals are very helpful, because I know some fundamentals. Like I mentioned, I have a background of animating characters for advertising, and this helps me improve the animation on top of the data that I took from Rokoko. And all of, for example, the hands. I was making a more linear movements, so I make more a curvy arc to make
anticipating.
The arc of
you feel impact, and
so this adds up to the final quality, and even it is subtle, is there, and
it makes a huge. It just ends up. Yeah, it really makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So
okay, man. Oh, sorry. Well,
no problem.
Fab. Okay, before we because are you cool to hang out for a little while longer?
Sure.
We got some. Okay, awesome. Thank you for giving us so much time, man. So before we get into Q&A, and we're gonna do a live stream with Fab too, where we can go down the rabbit hole even more. But we're just gonna do the last two raffles now. I'm gonna do my last little spiel about all of the discounts, just to remind you. Then we'll get into Q&A and keep looking at this project file if that's cool. But yeah, let's do a quick little raffle before we get into it. So we have two raffles. We have a head rig, and we have the full performance capture Indie Pro bundle that we're giving out. The winner of the head cam or head rig, Android or iOS, take your pick, is oh man, I'm sorry if I butcher your name. Juan Cao, I think. Juan, congratulations. We will be getting in touch with you. Yay!
Congratulations.
Horn emojis. About shipping you out some goodies and figuring out if you want the iOS or the Android solution. But the big raffle winner, I don't know, drum roll effect. I need someone yeah, okay. Thank you, Fab. The big winner of Smart 2 Pro 2 smart gloves, facial motion captures, Rokoko Studio Pro subscription, everything you need to do full performance capture is going to be going to Brian Poet. Brian Poet. Yay! Congratulations, Brian. And for everyone who did not win, of course, we have the 5% discount that works for the whole store. But also, you know, as I said before, we are going to be doing these webinars. We do them like every 2 or 3 months. We always do raffles. We always do giveaways. I've seen a bunch of people in the chat being like, this is so amazing, but I can't afford it right now. Sign up for a webinar. Come to a webinar. Maybe you'll win. Or maybe if you are close to being able to afford it, you know, we do 15%, 20% discount sometimes on the webinar. So join the webinars and maybe that will help, or maybe you'll win. And and also you might learn something from someone like Fab. So
Pwnisher challenges.
or the Pwnisher challenges. Everyone should definitely join the Pwnisher challenges as well. That goes without question. And then yeah, for anyone again, to reiterate, you know, we have this Indie Plus and Pro bundles. Plus is 2,700, Pro is 3,000, which in the Pro includes facial motion capture, but for the Plus you get everything that Fab used in these projects. So it's amazing. It's an incredible value. And I have seen a bunch of people in the chat being like, it's really expensive, and it is expensive. That's a lot of money, but it's all relative, and it's you know, it's a crate, you know, mocap is still to do it well, it still costs a little money. So I guess my point is it's very affordable for what you get relative to the rest of the industry. I know that doesn't take the sting away from a lot of money for everyone, but I really do believe that I'm like so happy that we've been able to do this indie bundle, because even though I see people saying it's a lot of money, you know, so is like an A7, and I'm happy we've been able to hit kind of a DSLR level of cost, you know, because I feel like it's a similar level of professional gear that we're offering. So yeah, indie bundle, go check it out. And with that, I think Ian, let me know if I'm missing anything. I think I hit everything, but let's go back where, oh God. Okay, this one. Let's go back to your thing, to your project file, and I'll pull up the Q&A and see if we got any questions.
Okay.
Ooh, here's a great one right off the bat from Joshua. I also have a few questions of my own still that I will ask. But we'll do 20 minutes if you can give us that of Q&A. Okay. So from Joshua Brunger, and I say some people's names and I butcher most of them, I'm sorry. As someone who has made all this incredible work, do you get hypercritical of your work, thinking that, like, do you get hung up on that a lot?
Yeah, Joshua, it is true. I am very nitpicking, and a lot of times I keep seeing things, because since we are involved around 100% doing this kind of work, when you ask people around of some comments, that it is very important. I'm looking at some defects that they are don't seeing, and there are something that it is not noticeable for someone that is building this from scratch. It is hard to say what is noticeable or not. So it is a constant concern. In the middle of the project is always that the doubt if this is gonna work or not. But we have to believe the process, and
we're our own harshest critics. I think that's like it's an important thing to know about yourself, is that you're probably being harder on this and seeing things that nobody else will you know, we'll see. And so I think that's just a struggle for, I think, any creative, and it's nice to hear someone like you also struggles with it. And it is normal. Yeah. And do you have your like wife and just random people try and look at things to gauge
Mhm.
stuff? Yeah, because that's really an important part of the process too, right?
Very, very much
Yeah.
because it improves so much, and with the community, friends, and family, give me so many
Yeah.
hints of how to improve. My wife, as you mentioned, she's very critic. She's an artist as well, so we have a very keen eye for details and lightings and composition. So
Mm.
she's very, very nitpicking as well, and very, very demanding.
But
But it
also,
helps a lot.
yeah. Right. Yeah. And I will also say, I think one of the things that's really hard about getting feedback, if I can say myself, is that oftentimes people will tell you, um, what I heard a piece of advice once that was, when you show your work to someone and someone says that they don't like a certain part of it, listen to the fact that they don't like that part, but don't listen to how they would fix it. That's not important. All that's important is that part wasn't working for some reason. Work on how to fix that yourself. Don't listen to their suggestion. I find that to be infuriating when they're like, you could add more people. You're like, that's not, you don't even know how difficult that would be. That's not important. What's important is they had a reaction that part wasn't working. And then you can go back and you can look at that part, you know?
Yeah, and you
Um,
have to know how to filter some comments because there
yeah.
are some, of course, every comment are welcome, but some comments might deviate from your original vision. So you have to
Yeah.
keep in mind of what you are really want to do, what you really want to
Mm,
achieve, and the best way possible. But sometimes a lot of people will say something that it is not important for what you are trying to get, and you
yeah.
have to know how to detect that because I saw some examples in previous challenges. There was a few artists that was trying to take every comment he gets and try to
Right.
address everything, and all of a sudden he kind of it seems like he kind of forgot what the main reason of that. So
Yeah.
by the end of the day, this is your work, so you call the shots, and
Yeah.
of course comments are very helpful, critics are very helpful. Criticizing yourself, pushing yourself to be better, make things better and more efficiently is important, but you have to know the limits on how to push yourself, not to get too much stressed, and also to feel all the comments.
Yeah. Yeah. Take that to the grave. That is all really good
Yeah.
advice. Can we share your screen again? Because this next question
Oh,
from
I, wa-
D.
I thought I was sharing already. Sorry.
Oh no, maybe it didn't go through, or
Okay.
maybe I'm screwing it up somehow. Oh no, there we go. Okay, so this is interesting, and maybe you could actually talk about this specifically on this project from D. What kind of post-processing or cleanup is typically required after capturing movements with Rokoko? And one thing I'll say before you get started is the cleanup that I showed in the live demo of cleaning up the foot contacts, that is not, there's many times I don't need to do that. I'm making an Instagram reel, or I'm doing a character who's idling, and I don't have to do it, or I'm jumping around and the take was fine. But the cleanup in Rokoko Studio, that is a part of the it's intended to be a part of the process. So it's not like that's a failure. That's not how it's not like cleaning it up means it was a bad take. That is a part of what makes Rokoko good at the high level, is the ability to do that cleanup in that way. So that cleanup is typically a part of it. If I'm jumping around, if I'm doing a dive, like what Fab is doing, there will always be cleanup in Rokoko Studio that will take about a minute. But then maybe you can talk about what you did here and what you typically find maybe you do for Rokoko, and I can talk about that too. And when it comes to cleanup,
Yeah, sure. Well, for start, using the record data from Rokoko Studio, I didn't mess with anything inside the software. I think
wow,
was good enough for
great,
what I wanted to do. And so I imported here to Unreal. This is the original animation track that is deactivated. So because I baked the animation and start building these layers of animation. So this is the first layer. You can see there is a lot of keyframes here, and sometimes you see some gaps. And I usually go to a specific, for example, if you have a funky movement, I can isolate some curves. For example, in the let's see, for example, like the foot, for example, if they're like this here, wow, this is giving a spike of animation. I can just delete this keyframe, make it
Oh,
a little
wow.
smoother. Might be a little time consuming sometimes, but as long as I'm not seeing the problem, it is fine.
Yeah.
So this is one way I clean up. This is the first pass of cleanup. Sometimes it can be a little noise, a little different rotation, stuff like that happening.
And this
But
looks pretty insane. And I will just say, just for myself, I never go this deep, so you don't have to get into the
yeah,
graph editor.
yeah,
But
I usually don't go this deep as well. But
mm,
because before adding layers, I
right,
have to make sure that the base is
it's
okay.
clean. Yeah.
Because it is very easy to add movements, but fixing movements with other layers can be a little hard. So
Have you ever used the Butterworth filter in Unreal? You know, they add there, you can do that now. There's a smoothing filter.
yeah, I use some filters. I don't remember
It's
where it is.
it's the top right, I think.
This one here, yeah, I use some of this, the
Yeah.
simplify especially
Yeah.
to reduce the huge
The
amount of
amount.
keyframes. Yeah, but I usually leave this way.
But you just go
I
in and
only
do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
only
you're a pro.
simplify when I really need to clean up some crazy curves that might
Okay.
happen. It is not all the time. I didn't
Hmm.
have to make too much cleanup because, for example, I was having an idea of the animation in the beginning, like I don't know if you can see this here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
actually, no, this is later. In the beginning, maybe if I open the animation data, I can explain it a little better. My
Oh,
original idea
the
was
initial, yeah.
like, yeah, like the first pose would be like meditating or something like that. But
Right.
I didn't think that to have a lot of impact. So I saw this picture here, like a guardian, stuff like that,
Right.
telling you to stop. I think would be more compelling. But I recorded this way. So I
Hmm.
have to delete the keyframes that make this way so I can move to
Oh,
another
wow.
position in the beginning. So that's why there are so many gaps in the animation here in the beginning because
Oh,
it totally clean
interesting.
up the initial of the mocap data. But this was a creative change. Doesn't have anything technically with the Rokoko suit.
Right.
And these are things that you kind of change in the middle of the process. It's not a big deal, but I thought it was more compelling making this kind of pose. And after having the first layer cleaned up, I started adding these new layers that add movements. For example, this guy is big and heavy, so I animated there is a lot of keyframes here. But for example, when he moving, I make it going up. Oh, sorry, the wrong control. Here
Oh,
I make him moving up and down. I
mm,
exaggerated this movement to give more a more sense of weight and delay this movement as well. Like after he put the floor on the ground, the hips continue going down, and this delay gives a
yeah.
more sense of rate. And
Yeah.
after having everything animated, I started animating the pauldrons and all the loose armor pieces to enhance this sense of weight.
Yeah. And I will say
And
also, like, one of the things that's nice about because Rokoko came the suit really in its current form ish happened around 2017,
okay,
and there still is I think
okay,
it's a really difficult thing
okay.
for many people is that making the mocap is relatively easy now, but getting it onto characters and doing editing has been really difficult in most of the programs. And just in the last year and a half,
Yeah.
2 years has, especially in Unreal, like it's so much easier to do this stuff in Unreal that you know, do these touch-ups, that it's kind of like the retargeting stuff is kind of caught up to the ease of the mocap, which is great because the retargeting stuff is tough, and
Yeah.
editing is tough, but it's a part of it. And yeah.
And here, I just turned off the other animation layers. This is kind of the original animation.
Oh wow, okay.
It is different, but at the same, you see, I have to
Yeah,
also
no
delete the
hand.
keyframes that could, yeah, no hand, because I animated I reanimate the hand at the end. But you can see it is not that difference, but gives me a very good start of
Yeah,
what would actually. And I got impressed on how I moved, because I don't know how I could move forward keeping the same height of my hips. I didn't shake at all. So it looks a
yeah.
little robotic, but it is my fault. It is my, I was moving this way, and it
But
was very
it's like one of
accurate.
those happy accidents that you find, right?
Yes,
That
yes.
you can find from when you're doing it this way, this kind of organic animation by your body rather than thinking rationally about it. It's like
Yeah,
you find these the ankle turned or whatever, and little
yeah,
happy
and
accident.
I realized that I'm that needs a lot of talent to make a good motion capture. I'm not a motion capture artist, so I praise this kind of work so much now, because
Yeah,
I had no idea before of how difficult can be making proper motion capture. So I'm not I don't have smooth movements. My acting is really rough,
yeah,
so I have to enhance this afterwards. But it
yeah.
is not a problem with the hardware. It's the problem with the
No,
artist itself. And
it's that acting is a thing for a reason because it's hard and it's
yeah,
specific. And yeah. Oh man, okay. Thank you again for sticking with us. I think we already burned our time on this, but we'll try and do some fast ones.
okay.
There's a question about Rokoko and other mocap technology that doesn't require a suit, and your thoughts about that. And I will say my thoughts about that, which is that every tool for every situation. And you go to move.com or you go to Wonder, and I have no problem saying it's very obvious those are also wonderful tools. Like those are great tools. You can get great mocap out of those tools as well. Of course, you can get better mocap than Rokoko with some of them that are a lot more expensive, but the mocap will be better. The thing about mocap is it's very specific, I think, what I've learned, to your situation. And when it comes to AI, one of the two things that I don't like, I find that the quality of AI from a lot of the providers is very high. Some of the cons are, I don't like that you have a certain amount of seconds that you can process a month. I think I love that with Rokoko, there's no limitations on that. And then the other thing you don't think about with AI a lot, and including our AI, is that you actually need a ton of space for AI, because typically you can't use wide angle cameras. You have to use narrow FOV cameras, which means the camera needs to be quite a far way away, and your body has to be in the entire frame of the camera the whole time. So you get very space limited very quickly. Like I could not use AI in this office, and this is like a relatively big room. And you were talking a little bit about that. I can't remember if it was in this webinar or yesterday when we were chatting, but just about, yeah, and I won't put words in your mouth. What do you think about some of the new tools that are markerless and stuff?
To be honest, I didn't use motion capture AI tools. I probably try. Actually, I tried with Shakan in the beginning
Mm,
before having the suit. I tried a little bit, but I was doing something wrong. I didn't like too much. I don't remember the tool I used, but I didn't like too much because I was making the characters trying to realize some animation, and I didn't want to make it by hand. And wow, this will be a good opportunity to try these new AI tools that are coming up. So I didn't adapt too much to it. I know that it was much improved, and it will continue improving for the next years. But I can have an opinion about it. I didn't actually use.
Fair.
Sorry.
I like it. Yeah, no, that's a good, that's an honest answer. And I'll just say the other thing that's really nice when it comes to AI versus Rokoko is just that Rokoko is real time. Again, there's pros and cons to everything. The Rokoko is not the right tool for every situation, 100%. But another thing that's nice is like, I love that it's real time, just personally, because it means I don't have to wait for processing. So if it just keeps me moving faster, which, so I'll just say that. And of course, I'm a little bit biased. Okay, quickly, how do you get out of an art block? You're blocked, you're angry with yourself, you're disappointed in what you're creating. Do you have anything? Do you go take a walk? Do you go, I don't know,
Uh,
watch a movie?
yeah, I have to turn off a little bit
Yeah.
from the project, get out of this room and do anything else. Sometimes I get too involved to do this, and this is not good. You have to have your
Mm-hmm.
time of rest. You have to
Yeah.
have your mind fresh to really be creative and work well. But yeah, getting out is a good stuff. Go out for having lunch with my wife, some playing video games, watching movies or shows.
Just clear the
Yeah.
brain a little bit. Yeah.
Anything else that deviates you, even for a few hours from
Yeah.
what you're doing, even if it is just for a few minutes. Play with my
And it,
dogs, stuff like that, helps a lot.
yeah. Yeah. And it's important to do that because when you are fortunate enough, if you do work in this field professionally, usually for most people, it's also our passion. And you
Yeah,
don't want to get burned out on your passion because it can make
yeah,
things very sad for you.
yeah,
And so, yeah,
and it is impressive how easy it is to get this point of
100%.
nearly burning out and getting stressed and
This does not
losing
make me happy
faith
anymore.
in your
Yeah.
project, stuff like that. Yeah, it is so easy to get there. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, here's a good question from Jerry. What
Hi,
comes
Jerry.
first? Yes, hi Jerry. What comes first? And thank you for asking. What comes first for rigging your character or recording your mocap? And yeah, how do you think of how does a unique rig affect motion capture and vice versa? And basically, can you talk
Yeah,
about that? Yeah.
sure. Well, I can say I will say specifically for this project, that was the beauty of everything that I didn't have to think about rigging at all.
Yeah.
I wasn't not even a hair concerned with rigging. Just for the only thing that I touched for rigging wise was making the secondary controls for the armor, and that's
Right.
it. And was very simple. Was one bone, and that's it. So in this case, that's why I use. And this is one thing that is good. In the beginning of any project, it is very good you plan your steps. You don't need to
Mm.
plan everything until the end, but having a good understanding of what tools you're gonna use and what
Do you write that down?
softwares.
Do you do that in your head, or how do you approach that?
I usually, well, for this animation, the first day I just spend thinking about this. Well,
Mm.
am I using Unreal? Am I using Blender? Well, Unreal has I have a control rigger ready set up that I really enjoy and I use to work with. I have a good understanding of working with motion capture in Unreal, so Unreal was an obvious choice for me. And since the beginning, I was planning using MetaHuman. Since the beginning, I was planning using the mannequin for the statues because of the
Mm.
contour rigs, and it is a little more because the mannequin has a little less gears, let's say this way, comparing to MetaHuman. And
Mm.
for this character that doesn't need facial animation, stuff like
Right.
that, that is totally fine using the mannequin. And was a very good choice for me because I didn't have to worry about any kind of this technical stuff regarding rigging.
Yeah, I will say, so the thing that I will add to that is that I think the important thing that when it comes to having a character that's unique, a good example of thinking ahead is something like cloth dynamics. You know, if you have a character that if you have a scene that that you are going to be using Marvelous Designer, and we're going to get Fab back to talk about his whole Marvelous Designer workflow, which is a whole other thing. But when you're doing things like simulating cloth as an example, I know that I really want to make sure I'm not going to have clipping between my arms and my torso as much as I can. So I might act a little bit wider, with that knowledge, because if I have clipping, I'm going to get all these simulation errors. So I think it's really a huge part of the process is what I'll say that I've learned is that the quality of a rig really matters. And then this is not part of the question, but when it comes to motion capture, whenever I see like an amazing mocap, I forget what company is. It's one of the other companies, but you go to their website and there's an example that they have, and it's a side-by-side of motion capture. And so it's the actor, and then it's the render. And the render is not just a character. It is the most gorgeous cloth simulation, secondary motion, buckles, zippers, all hair, perfectly moving. Mocap is great, but when you layer in stuff like that, when you layer in secondary motion, a backpack that bounces, hair that moves, that is what starts to take the realism up and kind of make it more compelling, I've found. And that introduces sometimes planning that must be done in the mocap phase, because those are complicated things. So that's my
Yeah,
rant
no
on
problem.
that.
No, it's very interesting. I also wanted to check this company that you mentioned. I really want to
Yeah,
check
I
this
forget. It's not
example.
Move. Who is it? I forget who it is, but I'm always like, this video is not about the mocap. This video is
Yeah,
about there's an amazing artist out there who is an incredible simulator. Like, that's what is impressive about this. The mocap is
yeah,
just someone dancing. But holy Jesus, there's 3 layers of clothing that are all being perfectly simulated. Like,
yeah,
that's why the mocap looks so impressive. Um,
yeah.
okay.
Clothing was a little. I had a little step back with clothing in this scene because at first I was planning to simulate in real time in Unreal Engine. I was having some issues that I didn't know how to fix it, and I almost gave up with cloth simulation
Yeah.
because even with not even without cloth simulation, the character was working. So I thought, going back to that pillars example, if I can't solve the cloth simulation in this scene, it will
Mm,
work anyway because he has a cloth already. It is
right.
weight painted to the body. It doesn't move at all. It's not realistic, but it works. It's moving anyway. It was my backup plan. So of course
Yeah.
I went to Marvelous and thankfully also for the help of the community make it work.
Yeah. And again, we will be doing a live stream because I
Yeah.
just need to know Fab's workflow for Marvelous, because I
Yeah.
butt my head up against it for my submission last time. Okay, so I think we're gonna do one last question. There's so many more. Everyone, we do a live stream on YouTube every Thursday. Come and we're gonna have Fab back, and we're gonna have more time. We can't unfortunately do this forever. There's so many more questions. But one last question that I think is valuable before we go is from Edsel. Hey, Edsel Mendoza.
Hey Mendoza.
Fab, thank you for saying hello to people. I'd never do that, and now I'm going to. Hello, Edsel. Thank you for asking. How does your viewport look so good? What console variable secrets do you have? And what I would translate that to is, because we talked a little bit about why your mocap looks so good. It's about how the rigging, the non-deforming, the modular allowed you to move quickly and spend time on editing. The mocap helped that look good. Are there
Yeah.
what are your other, if you had to go back and you had 5 minutes to tell yourself, what are some of the things about Unreal that I've learned that have really saved my butt? What are a few of those things? Why does this look so incredible? If you can briefly, go through some of the big things that you're
Oh,
always going into a project. You're like, I need God rays. This is how you do it. I need fog cards. I don't know. What are your top 5?
ah,
How does this
thank
look
you.
so good?
Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
it
in
does.
first
I
place.
mean, it's not.
And well, I've been studying Unreal for the past 3 years, so I started to understand what I need for every project. Like I need a skybox. I need a master material. I need some few stuff that a light setup already done, just to start with. So I won't need to start from scratch. So I built a template that has a little some adjustments. I have the ray trace hardware ray tracing turned on already for this for any project I started with. There are
Oh,
I don't
oh,
use.
fascinating. Can we? So you have a starter project that you
Yeah,
keep on ice that I
yeah,
assume you
yeah,
copy for each new project, and it's already set up. It's already got your
yeah,
skybox that you like. It's already got the right settings in the engine. It's
yeah.
so that's
There's not
smart.
much, but for console commands, I use some console commands for rendering, but
Yeah,
for the viewport stuff, I have just a few console commands to enable nanite tessellation. For example, I have this in my
that
template
fixes the
scene.
normal issue, right? Is
Actually,
that what that does?
it makes the displacement using it. I use
Yeah,
a
yeah,
few
yeah.
in the
Right.
floor. Like here, for example, we have some displacements, and it is not enabled by default. So I have to make add two lines in a .ini file from the project. So this is already included in my template file, and we have some console command to raise the texture pool size, for example, that I
Yes.
always break this.
The
So
streaming one,
yeah, yeah,
r
yeah, the
dot, I
streaming
know what
one.
it is. It's r dot streaming dot pool size space
Yes.
add a high number, because that
Yeah, but
stupid warning.
I don't need to type this every time I
I know.
open the editor. I just edit this on an ini file.
Smart.
And one thing that helps me so much, I will advertise this guy here.
This was so cool. Oh, okay. I
I
thought you were
use this
going to the
plugin.
scalability. Okay, no, excuse me. Plugin. Okay,
Actually,
what is this
yeah,
plugin?
yeah, this is screen space fog scattering from Dimitri. I will butcher his name, so I won't pronounce his last name. So it is Dimitri, and this basically works together with the exponential height fog. Let's. I don't remember the command, but it is screen space. I will turn this off, so you'll see the difference. If I turn this off, boom, this is the default
Whoa.
fog. And of course, I
Whoa.
can enhance this effect like this, but
Whoa.
this is the default.
What is it doing? It's just,
It's kind of,
is it
I can't explain technically what it does,
changing the
but
bounces or the indirect lighting or
no,
something?
it makes the fogs looks more diffuse, I think. It if it's exaggerate here, you can see a little more. Like you see that it kind of blurred things and make it transparency stuff. I usually make these effects in post, but it has but the advantage making this in Unreal, it respects the depth and the lighting.
Yeah.
In post, it does all the same. Here it has some variances and helps to bring more realism to it for my taste. So
So
I use
good
this
one.
plugin
Oh
a
my
lot.
God.
It's very nice plugin, and also the scalability, like I mentioned here in the
Yes,
engine
that was
scalability
so
settings.
cool.
Yeah,
That blew my mind, man.
yeah. This is for running smooth your viewport smoother if you're struggling. Like the default is this, like everything in Epic. It might compile some things here, but if you put this on low, it looks like crap, but it's
But it runs. Yeah.
runs way smoother. Yeah, it is a very nice
Um,
tool that very helpful.
yeah, that is such a cool one as well. Okay, wait, hold on. I don't know if there's more questions that we could just very quickly do. Hold on, it's getting
Okay.
we're kind of
I will
oh
try
yeah,
not to
okay.
extend my answers too
No,
much.
no, no. No, we already we covered all these. Okay, yes. Is there anything else? Any other big lessons? I mean, that is crazy, that plugin. Oh my God.
Yeah,
What is that? Is that a paid plugin on the marketplace?
yeah, it is in marketplace.
Oh my God.
I
I'm gonna
will
go over there right after
screen
this.
space fog
Screen
scattering.
space and Fox. Yeah. And what's so nice is because you have a project you've already got prepped, you don't have to go into plugins and restart every single
Yeah,
time you start a new project,
yeah,
which
it's very
I
useful.
do every time I import a MetaHuman. I have to add
I
Vroom
keep
and do all the, you know.
I keep updating this project because
Huh.
I keep stacking a lot of
Yeah.
useless stuff because
I
this
hope
I
you
don't
have
use
it
anymore. But
saved in
I have
a
something like
offline hard drive, so, you know,
yeah.
safe somewhere.
Yeah. No, but I have with me. I have on the cloud as well. I really don't
Yeah.
want to lose it. It's very
Yeah.
helpful for me. Has some blueprints as well to make arrays, stuff like that. So it's very useful. Don't know much about blueprints. So it is nice to have some in my hand to
Yeah,
start
yeah,
with.
selling yourself a little bit short because I know a lot of those Niagara things were dynamic and that you made here. And
Yeah.
I loved it also. So okay, so we're gonna call it here kind of. Thank you everyone for joining. I will you know, we'll go back through just for us, you know, just so that we can do it again. But before I talk about this stuff, you know, Fab went and did a roundup with all the winners from the most recent contest on his channel, and they talk even more in your conversation with Clint. You talked about your inspiration a little bit more and the environment building and the waterfalls and the particle systems, and so that's a really great conversation to go watch. I encourage everyone who's curious to go watch that on Clint's YouTube channel. We're going to have upcoming webinars, discounts, raffles. Join them. Indie Bundle happening right now. Rokoko.com. Follow the QR code. Use the discount if you're on the fence. And other than that, thank you so much, Fab, for joining. This was like genuinely, I have so much fun with these things. It's
Thank you
so,
so much for having me. It is great.
yeah,
I love this opportunity. I love having the chance to interact with other people, with the
yeah,
community. I love what Rokoko guys are doing, making these examples. All because it is a very, like I mentioned before, and I keep saying this, is a very smart marketing strategy. You are selling a product, of course, but you are being the most clear possible with everything. And for people that has Rokoko gear already, the support is great. And
mhm.
it is really great. And I'm very thankful for all the support, everything, all the opportunities you are opening. It is really amazing. And I,
we
I really appreciate.
You're gonna make some people very happy because we try really hard to be there for people and to be real and to talk about the limitations and talk about the advantages. And you know, we're all fortunately a lot of I and a lot of the people at Rokoko, we're all part of this community too. And so we try
Yeah.
to do things in a way that we would want to be sold to, which I don't want to be lied, and I don't want to hear that a tool is perfect, because you know what, no tool is perfect. And
No, not
um
at all.
and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe Rokoko isn't right for you, but maybe it is. And it can be really amazing. And this is an example of an incredible use of it. So thank you for the kind words, Fab, and thank you for joining, and thank you everyone for coming. It was up to 500 people, I think, at its height. And we'll be sending everyone an email with all that stuff we said earlier and links to Fab's profile and demo reel. And we'll also be putting this webinar up live. And as I know I've said it 1,000 times, Fab will be back, and we're going to get
Yeah.
deep into Marvelous Designer, and I will
Yeah.
crash his computer. We will
The
do it.
fun will continue. We'll crash
Yeah,
everything.
we'll. Yeah, we're gonna short out the Brazil and US power grids with our computers.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, thank you everyone, and
Thanks so
Fab,
much.
I'll see you on Discord to thank you
Yeah.
again in a second. See you
Bye,
everyone.
guys. Thank you so
Have a
much.
good day.